North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Greetings, my name is John David Wells. We report the news, honestly, fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point that out. I make commentary. That's not the news. That's just my opinion. Just as valuable as yours. And so, we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Greetings. My name is John David Wells. Thanks very much for being with us today. Lots of things to discuss. I want to show you something. That's the White House press briefing slide. This press briefing normally happens earlier in the day. And what has happened with it is it's been delayed. Why do you suppose? Well, it appears that it's been delayed because of a second tranche, that's industry jargon, of a tranche of classified documents found in the house of President Joe Biden. This is not good. And there are all kinds of intriguing things to think about when you start thinking about this thing. And we're going to get to them. Now, that White House press briefing is going to get underway at some point, maybe. We're going to join it because, well, it's kind of important that you find out what she's going to say. I know, she drives you crazy. She drives me crazy. But Karine Jean-Pierre is in an impossible situation. One of the problems with being a press secretary is that when a president is, and this is an opinion, this is just an opinion, when a president is trying to protect deniability, when he is trying to evoke plausible deniability, the White House press secretary often gets left out in the cold. I believe that's happened here. And that being said, the press corps doesn't care. The intrigue part of this is, well, it's something that is, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I stay away from them. But one of the problems with the conspiracy theory in the current American paradigm is that conspiracy theories often end up being news. And I got to be perfectly honest with you. When somebody evokes the word conspiracy theory, I sit there and go, you need to stop using that term. I'm not going to evoke a conspiracy theory. But I am going to say, is this the opportunity for the Democrat Party to throw Joe Biden out of the boat? You see, earlier today, and we're going to get to this in detail, the Attorney General of the United States announced that he had appointed a special prosecutor to look at the Biden classified documents. Because now, not only in an old office at the Penn Biden Center in the University of Pennsylvania, not only have they shown up, but there's a whole bunch of classified material in the garage of President Biden's Rehoboth, Delaware home. So people were saying, now, wait a minute, when are we going to have a raid of Joe Biden's house? Well, apparently it happened already. SWAT team? No. He's right on the beach. Were there Coast Guard cutters going back and forth to stop anybody from swimming out in the ocean with classified documents? No. Did both of those things happen at Mar-a-Lago? Yes. And so there's all kinds of trouble for Joe Biden. And the question is, because this is such a politically charged circumstance, the politicians of the United States just going full bore after Donald Trump, is what we have here a circumstance whereby this is an opportunity to, say, for example, disqualify President Biden from running for office in 2024? Would they be willing to vote Joe Biden, Democrats I'm talking about, would they be willing to vote Joe Biden off the island, throw him out of the boat, what have you, if it meant throwing Donald Trump out of the election as well? Now, because the DOJ is blatantly political, There's no way to avoid that question. So I'm just putting it out up front. All right. For whatever it's worth, consider that. So here's the latest story. Once again, a batch of classified documents found in the garage of one of President Biden's Delaware homes. This, according to White House lawyers. The White House counsel's office searched two of Biden's residences in Rehoboth Beach and Wilmington, Delaware, this week after revelations about a collection of Obama-era classified documents at a think tank in Washington. Biden is facing growing scrutiny for his handling of classified documents. The White House says it's fully cooperating with a Justice Department investigation. White House lawyers say they immediately contacted the DOJ when they discovered the documents this week. There's been no indication of what the documents contain or whether President Biden or anyone else read them after leaving office as vice president. The president, as you will shortly see, points out that these documents were kept in his garage and it was locked with his 67 Corvette. So who would have had access to those documents? Maybe the guy changing the oil in the Corvette? I'm sure he had a security clearance. Sorry. Quote, lawyers discovered among personal and political papers a small number of additional Obama-Biden administration records with classified markings. All but one of these documents were found in a storage space in President Biden's Wilmington residence garage. White House lawyers noted in a Thursday statement today, one document consisting of one page was discovered among the stored materials in an adjacent room. So they're making a big deal out of this. My goodness, there are now 3 different sites. Well, they were in the same house, so that's 2 different sites. Okay, they're in his residence. Let's just keep this. Let's keep this together. Okay. There's a statement that I'm going to attempt to. There we go. Let me show this to you. Here, hang on a second. Oh wait, Karine Jean-Pierre has just joined us. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Karine Jean-Pierre in the White House press office and see just exactly what she has to say.
That these documents were inadvertently misplaced, and the president and his lawyers acted promptly upon discovering of this mistake. With that, my colleague is here, John Kirby, to talk through the bilat tomorrow and also with Japan Prime Minister and also the bilat with the Prime Minister of Netherlands next Tuesday. And then I'll come back.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I think tomorrow, President Biden's going to be welcoming Prime Minister Kishida of Japan here to the White House. He's looking very much forward to that.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to watch this very carefully and see just exactly what is going on with regards to these documents. Karine Jean-Pierre giving way to John Kirby, who should be the president's press secretary. In my humble opinion, it's no shot at Karine Jean-Pierre, but I just happen to believe that it may be time for a change. Let me show you this statement as I read it. As we stated previously, we are fully cooperating with the National Archives and the Department of Justice in a process to ensure that any Obama-Biden administration records are appropriately in possession of the archives. This is from Richard Sauber, special counsel to the president. Following the discovery of government documents at the Penn Biden Center in November of 2022 and coordinating closely with the Department of Justice, the president's lawyers have searched the president's Wilmington and Rehoboth Beach, Delaware residences, the other locations where files from his vice presidential office may have been shipped in the course of the 2017 transition. The lawyers completed that review last night. During the review, the lawyers discovered among personal and political papers a small number of additional Obama-Biden document records with classified markings. All but one of these documents were found in a storage space in the president's Wilmington residence garage. One document consisting of one page was discovered among stored materials in an adjacent room. No documents were found in the Rehoboth Beach residence. I got that wrong earlier. I thought that they had searched the Rehoboth Beach residence. I did not know the president had any information or had a house in Wilmington as well as Rehoboth Beach. As was done in the case of the Biden Penn Center, the Penn Biden Center, the Department of Justice was immediately notified. The lawyers arranged for the Department of Justice to take possession of these documents. The White House will continue to cooperate with the review by the Department of Justice. All right. So as I said, there's a rough analogy here. And the rough analogy is, if you rob a bank, if you rob a bank, let me get this back here. If you rob a bank and then turn the money over to the FBI, you still rob the bank. And before everybody goes crazy and says, you're saying that classified information is as bad as a bank robbery? Actually, I'm saying it's worse than a bank robbery. I mean, on an order of magnitude larger. But the point of the matter is this. If you commit a crime, and what you end up with is with that evidence being found, and you immediately contact the authorities, you've still committed the crime. Now, well, isn't that exactly what Donald Trump did? Yes. He was in possession of these documents. If we decide that this is a crime for a president or even a vice president to do, is there a difference? Yes. President Trump has the power to declassify, and he did, according to what we've heard so far. Does the vice president have this? The answer is no. And so are there differences? Yes. Are there striking parallels? Yes. But what this comes down to is these guys who are presidents and arguably vice presidents have these papers. They were legally entrusted to them when they were indeed in office. The question is, are they legally entitled to them after they leave office? Now, according to what was called the Clinton Standard, because Bill Clinton was found with classified papers in his sock drawer. We found that out from the great Greg Jarrett from Fox News yesterday in a live interview here on the Wells Report. Okay, so there is a standard here that was just essentially thrown away. The Presidential Records Act is very, very plain that presidents get to have these documents. Now, President Biden is still the president. Now, arguably, he could do the same declassification process as President Trump did, even with these documents when he was the vice president. Because remember, he has classification authority. So that takes us right back down to politics. It takes us right back down to politics. And the questions are, okay, is this the Democrat chance to throw Joe Biden off the island and take President Trump with him, or vice versa, depending on your point of view? Or is this a situation where cooler heads are going to prevail and say, let's return to the Clinton standard and all this goes away? The problem with that is it also goes away for President Trump, and these people want his scalp, President Trump's scalp. Certainly intriguing. Back with more in a moment. This is the Wells Report. Thanks for joining us today. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. What are your comments? Would love to hear them. We want to hear them. There was a statement today regarding the documents found. The president made it, and I'm going to show it to you right this very moment.
We've obviously been watching very closely military operations, particularly in the eastern Ukraine.
Shoot. Dag nabbit. What do we have here? Just a second. Let me fix something here, and I will. Okay. Hold on just a moment. We had two things going there at the same time. Just how amazing is this how amazing is this sophisticated equipment that I possess? It can do two things at once. Sure wish I could. So this is the president from earlier today. Watch and discover. Let's see if it works. Cross your fingers. Cross your fingers. Yeah. I'm bragging about the amazing equipment I have, and then being victimized by it all at the same time. How very annoying. Now I have to go through this one more time. Stand by just a moment here while we try to get you the president of the United States discussing this circumstance. And because he did, and there are some interesting things about it too, by the way. So let me see if I can get this done. Let me do this. Let me do this.
America. There's nothing.
Okay, hold on.
We just have to remember who in God's name we are. We just have to remember who
Okay,
in
here
God's
we
name
go.
we are. You've heard me say it many times. This is the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity if we work together. So God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President,
Okay.
classified material next to your Corvette. What were you thinking?
Let me, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage. Okay, so it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
So
But anyway,
was in a locked garage.
Yes, as well as my Corvette. But as I said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified material seriously. I also said we're cooperating fully and completely with the Justice Department's review. As part of that process, my lawyers reviewed other places where documents in from my time as vice president were stored, and they finished the review last night. They discovered a small number of documents of classified markings in storage areas and file cabinets in my home and my personal library. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn Center. The Department of Justice was immediately, as was done, the Department of Justice was immediately notified, and the lawyers arranged for the Department of Justice to take possession of the document. So we're going to see all this unfold. I'm confident. Thank you very much.
And then the president turned on his heel and strode away. Okay? So there you go. These are the issues that we have at this particular moment. So President Biden, indeed, sparring with Peter Doocy of Fox News again. What were you thinking? Well, unfortunately, what he was thinking was I'm pretty sure he found himself in the exact same position as President Trump. The GAO packed up all his stuff, sent it to his house. They put it where they put it. And the president either never knew what was exactly in all those boxes or has forgotten what was in all those boxes. That's why the Attorney General has appointed a special counsel. We'll talk more about that next. We're also keeping our eyes on the White House press room, waiting for Karine Jean-Pierre to jump into answering questions about all of this as we continue on the Wells Report. Telephone number is 817-999-4499. Let's get together and chat. It's the Wells Report. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Thanks very much for joining us. We are still looking at the White House press room. If and when Karine Jean-Pierre shows up to start answering questions regarding these classified information pieces that we've been following for the last couple of days, we will go to that briefing because it's kind of important, as you now know. So
He said he's interested in tanks, and now
let
you
me turn that down. Okay. All right. Now, just to bring you up to date on a couple of other things. The special counsel that is looking at President Trump is seeking information on who's paying the Trump orbit legal bills as that investigation intensifies. This came from CNN. Now, this is old news. We've talked about this before, but CNN is just trying to throw as much Trump as they possibly can because of Biden. You know, once again, this is a media tempest in a teapot here. Okay? This is a tempest in a teapot. The actual details I've talked about many, many times. These guys have classified information. Some of them they don't handle them well. Okay? They're busy guys. And I'm talking about President Biden, President Trump, all of the presidents. Okay? President Bush, everybody. They all have classified information. And this whole thing started because they were trying to nail Donald Trump. And now what's happened is they've created this ridiculous swamp, to use a well-worn word, that they have now fallen into. And the only logical thing to do is to say, okay, these guys have classified documents. That's okay. Now, if there's obstruction of justice, I don't see that that's a very strong case against President Trump, but that's just my opinion. If there is indeed obstruction of justice, follow it. Follow it. If you're the special counsel, go after it. If you can prove it, fine. Do your job. But as far as anything else goes, you know, this is an embarrassment, not just to President Biden, not just to President Trump, but to the United States of America. And that gets into our kitchen. And this is silly. I wasn't the only one that said it. Yesterday, we had Greg Jarrett from Fox News. He said the exact same thing. These guys have these documents. Now, I'm sure they're going through all their possessions. That's going to be tough. There are millions of documents with President Obama. There are millions of them. Okay, so they're probably going through all that stuff right this very minute, and they're going to try to figure out what to do. Or they're not doing anything, waiting for cooler heads to prevail and say, okay, we created a mess for ourselves. And then, of course, the intrigue about the fact that this might be, from a political standpoint, once again, we've got legal here, and we've got politics here. Both valid, but credibility, there are problems on both sides. No, actually, it was CBS News that broke the Biden story, in case you're wondering. Okay. Let's see. This started because Trump ignored a subpoena and lied about returning all the documents. Well, once again, we don't know. There's a special counsel who's working on all that stuff. We'll get something. Will it be fair, honest, straightforward? Don't know. Depends on how political this guy is. Let me give you the latest information on President Trump. A new round of subpoenas were sent to former President Donald Trump's associates in recent weeks as a part of I told you this was old news. Special counsel Jack Smith's criminal investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Amid the extensive requests for information are now new questions from federal investigators about who's paying for the legal representation for subpoena recipients. It's none of his business. I suppose he can ask, but once again, I've been subpoenaed once to testify in a case that didn't involve me. Nobody paid my bills. I mean, did I need a lawyer? Nah, I handled it. But the simple case of the matter is that you can't go anywhere in any of this without a lawyer in your pocket. It's expensive. Now, unless, I mean, this is a fishing expedition on the part of this special counsel. It's none of his business who's paying the legal bills. If he has probable cause to believe that there's some miscreancy with regards to transfer of money, what have you, and so on, that's fine. But that's before the subpoena stage, not after. Okay? All of that stuff, he's got to prove probable cause before he starts sending out subpoenas. Okay? And otherwise, it's a fishing expedition. Right? And once again, I've been completely fair about all this. All right, so Karine Jean-Pierre has returned to the podium, and it's something that we got to cover. So by all means, let's. This is Karine Jean-Pierre from the White House press office on the Wells Report here today on this Thursday. Here we go.
Proper possession of the government. After that search, after the search concluded last night, we released a statement disclosing the facts from that search, as you all know, this morning. This is all part of the Justice Department process, and you heard the Attorney General speak to this today. So we are being very careful to be fully cooperative with the Department of Justice and providing details as appropriate as part of that process.
So why did you fully describe the documents when we were firstly asked this week?
Because, and I actually answered that question. I said, because there was a process happening that was currently ongoing. And I'll refer you back to my comments that I made just yesterday. Go ahead, Mary.
Just a couple of things I want to clarify, just to make sure that our reporting is as accurate as possible. You know, the special counsel's, the White House counsel's statement this morning said that documents were found in the president's Wilmington residence garage and in an adjacent room. But when the president mentioned this himself in person earlier, he said they were found in storage areas and in his personal library. So can you just clear this up? Which room, where were the documents actually found in his residence?
Okay, so let me just step back because I know all of you will have a lot of questions. So I'll lay this out very clearly and precisely. I don't want, clearly want to make sure no one is confused. As you just said, Mary, as soon as the president's lawyers found these documents, they immediately contacted Archives and Department of Justice, as I've said many times already, to ensure that they were handled properly. The president has said this: we are being fully cooperative with the Department of Justice throughout this process. As part of the president's lawyers look through the places where documents could have been stored, and the counsel's office released, as you said, a statement explaining that. So I would refer you back to the statement. I don't have anything more to say, but that search was completed last night. And now this is in the hands of the Justice Department. So look, I want to be very prudent here, as I said yesterday, as you all have reported over and over again. About any questions about this, any specifics, there's a review going on, and I would refer to Department of Justice or my colleagues in the counsel's office. But again, I'm just not going to go beyond what the president said. We just laid out the process that was taken.
It sounds like you're saying we should go off of the counsel's statement saying it was found in the garage in an adjacent room.
I'm just saying I'm not going to go beyond what the president said. I'm not going to. Mary, I completely understand. I just want to be very careful because there is an ongoing investigation. I want to be prudent here and make sure if you have any additional questions about where things were found, again, I refer you to the statement. I'm not going to go beyond what the president said.
And one other point of clarification. The president said Tuesday he was surprised to learn about the documents at the Penn Biden Center, that he didn't know what was in these documents. He didn't sort of repeat that this morning about the documents found at his residence. So was he also surprised to learn that there were classified documents at his residence? And does he know any information about what's in them?
He was surprised that the documents were there, and that is also in line with what we shared this morning. And again, he takes this very seriously when it comes to classified information, when it comes to classified documents. And again, it still stays the same. He was surprised that the records were found. He does not know what's in them. That has not changed. And again, his team, when they identified that they were there, they immediately reached out to the archives, reached out to DOJ, just as they did last night, and as we have pretty much laid out previously.
And one more, just because much has been made of the differences here between what you all have handled these documents and the way that the former president handled documents that were taken from the White House. When the FBI, Garland said when the FBI went to the location being the president's residence and secured these documents, did the FBI just retrieve documents, or was there a search of the residence?
Again, I'm just not going to go into the particulars or the specifics of what the Department of Justice did. I can speak to what we have done and what is already out there. We laid out a statement pretty extensively on Monday. We've been laid out a statement this morning on what was found last night. I'm just not going to go beyond. I would refer you to the Department of Justice to give you the specifics on that. As you know, there's an ongoing process. There's a review currently occurring. Gotcha.
Thanks.
Okay.
Great. Can you shed any light on how the documents got to these places and why?
Again, there's an ongoing process. It's being reviewed. Don't have more to share. I'm going to let the Department of Justice answer any questions as they're looking at this.
Does the White House think that the appointment of a special prosecutor was warranted?
I'm not going to get into the decisions that was made by the Attorney General. I will say this, and you've heard me say this many times before. This is a president that believes in the independence of the Justice Department. This is something that he has been saying since the campaign, and you've heard me say this over and over in restoring that independence. So look, we have been very, very careful here not to appear from the White House to influence their decision making on any number of issues. As you've heard me say over and over again, I've said this many times. I'm sure someone has counted the amount of times that I've said that the Department of Justice is independent and we respect their independence. I'm certainly not going to comment on or give my opinion. Are we going to give our opinion on what the Attorney General laid out today?
What broadly does the White House make of comparisons between President Biden's handling of documents and former President Trump's handling?
I'm not going to get into politics from here. What I can say is what I've laid out, which is the president takes this very seriously. He does. He said this twice. And he did not know that the records were there when they were found. He does not know what's in them. And what he did and what his team did is the minute that they realized that the documents were there, they reached out to the archives, they reached out to the Department of Justice. And I'll just leave it there, and I'll leave you all to pontificate and do your punditry. I will not do that from here. Go ahead.
Thanks, Karine. In the statement from the special counsel about the second set of documents, since the lawyers have completed the ongoing review by the president's legal team last night, does that mean there are no other locations where documents could be stored? There's no other search underway at this moment in time for documents from the Vice President's side? So
as I'm just going to, again, that statement pretty much lays it out, that they have, as part of the lawyers, they look through the places where documents could have been stored, and the counsel's office released a statement on that. Now it is in the hands of the special counsel.
So we should assume that it has been completed?
You should assume that it's been completed, yes.
Okay. And then I just want to square something that Chris was asking about. The review was underway when you guys gave a detailed statement about the first set of documents. The review was underway when the president spoke about the first set of documents. You're now saying that you didn't talk about the second set of documents discovered almost a month prior because a review was underway. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense.
No,
the review was underway the entire time. The only difference was that reporters had information on the first set of documents, and therefore you chose to exclude the second set of documents until reporters got information on the second set of documents.
Well, let me unconfuse you for a second, Phil. Look, we are trying to do this by the book. And I said yesterday, this was under review by the Department of Justice. And the process is as such. When the president's lawyers realized that the documents existed, that they were there, they reached out to the archives. They reached out to the Department of Justice. Rightfully so, may I add. That is what you're supposed to do as lawyers. That's what they did. And they have fully been cooperating with the Department of Justice. And again, I said this earlier in answering a question you heard from the Attorney General. He said shortly after the documents were discovered, we did outreach. The president's lawyers did outreach to the Department of Justice and archivists.
Nobody's questioning that. That's not what we're asking about. We're asking about.
I'm telling you that there's a process. I just laid out what the process is, and I'm telling you that we were trying to do this by the book, and it was an ongoing process. I'm not going to get beyond that, but that is how this works.
How can you say this was transparent when you've sat on this information for more than 2 months?
Thank you, Karine.
Thank you.
We are seeking information, and I appreciate and understand why the press office can only say so much. So help us understand this. Who are the president's personal counsel that the Attorney General referred to today?
I was asked that question earlier. Let me get back to you. I actually don't have that answer. I think I know who it is, but I want to make 100% clear.
Bob Bauer is one, potentially Dana Remus, James Garland, Robert Leno. Are
Look,
they the ones that have been
so
contacting the justice?
look again, I don't want to, I want to say the right thing from here. So I would have to talk to the White House counsel, or you would have to reach out to the White House counsel to talk about who is his personal lawyers.
All right, so this Karine Jean-Pierre tap dancing through a really tough press availability. I'm going to put this back up during this break so that you can see what goes on. I found it very interesting. That was a great question. No, wait a minute. This is an ongoing process, but we only learned about the first set of documents while the investigation into the second documents was going on. That was a good one. We'll talk more about that in a moment. This is the Wells Report. We'll be back with more coming up in just a moment.
They reached out to the archives, they reached out to the Department of Justice, and they immediately, rightfully so, reached out to them to let them know what they had discovered. And that is the process. That is what that is what his lawyers did. Again, it's an ongoing process. As you stated in your question, I am limited in what I can say. It is now in the hands of the Department of Justice. They are reviewing this. As you know, the special counsel was announced by the Attorney General, and so I will leave it there.
What was the president trying to say when he referenced his Corvette earlier today? Because it sounded like he was implying that because his garage is a safe place for his car, the documents were safe. And therefore, if it was safe for the car, it was safe for the documents. Is that what he meant?
Look, I'm going to just leave his statement as is. I think your colleague was having a back and forth with the president. You can read the transcript of what was asked of him and why he responded that way. I'm just not going to get into specifics.
And you talk about we are being transparent. Who's we, and what is the definition of transparent in this case? Is it the lawyers being transparent legally with the archives and the Justice Department, or is it the White House writ large being transparent with the general public?
So number one, and I've said this multiple times already, we take this very seriously. The president takes this very seriously. He was not aware that the records were there. He does not know what is in the documents. Again, classified information, classified documents, he takes very seriously. When they were discovered, and this is the right thing to do, right? His lawyers reached out immediately to the archivists. They reached out to the Department of Justice to let them know that the papers or the documents assisted.
The archivist or the Justice Department? Because the Attorney General this morning said that the attorneys reached out to the archives. It was only later in December when the second batch was apparently reaching out to the Justice
I will
Department.
leave it to what the Department of Justice is laying out. What we are saying that we reached out to the archivist, we reached out to the Department of Justice. That is what is the right thing to do in this case. And not and so I can finish here. What has been transparent in this as well is that the White House counsel has laid out in detail on Monday to all of you.
Not everything, Karine, and you know that.
First of all, I can't talk about this, right? Because it is the Department of Justice is reviewing it. There is a review happening, Ed, right? You know this. We just heard from the Attorney General. There is a review. I am limited in what I can say to this.
Could Richard Sauber perhaps come here?
I think you should reach out to the White House counsel.
We're reaching out on a constant basis.
Okay,
Why not have them come here to the
I am
room
saying
take
to you
questions?
that we have put out lengthy statements and you can reach out to them as you all have been doing, and I will leave it there. Go ahead,
Well,
go ahead,
it's
go ahead,
just
go ahead. Just,
why not have them come and answer the questions?
they have been talking to you all pretty regularly the last couple of days. They have put out lengthy statements on this. I just read out what Richard Sauber had to say.
So you got to be asking yourself a question.
I am limited in
Would I like to have her job in this White House? I don't think so, not so much. Karine Jean-Pierre working her way through the reporters, asking about these documents, and having kind of a tough time. I think Peter Doocy is up here in this rotation. I'm waiting for him, and I think you are too. So let's just see what happens as we go back to the White House press corps and the White House press office with Karine Jean-Pierre trying to do the best she can. I'm just saying.
I will disagree with you on that. Justin.
2 months.
Justin.
Thanks, Corinne. I did want to kind of follow up on what Ed and Phil were asking, which is putting aside the question of whether the president's lawyers acted properly in handing the documents over. There's this lingering question of why there wasn't an acknowledgement of the second set of documents earlier this week. And you said that you're working through a process and going by the book. And what I'm curious is if you're trying to sort of hint at the idea that the Justice Department asked you not to reveal the second set of documents, or you were told in some way not to disclose anything that had not been made public.
I would not jump to those two conclusions. That is not what I'm stating. I am genuinely saying to you, there is an ongoing process that we are going to follow, and I am limited in what I can say from here. That is why my White House counsel colleagues we refer to them these past couple of days. Now, this is in the hands of the Department of Justice, as you all heard from the Attorney General himself.
I think I guess I remain confused. If the Justice Department didn't ask you not to disclose these documents, why on Monday, as this news was coming out, Tuesday, as the president was talking about it, you didn't say, here's everything we know at this point? You know, the first set was found at the Penn Biden Center, the second set was found at his office. We're searching to make sure that there's nothing else.
Because there's an ongoing process, and you heard directly from the Attorney General today. And that is the process. That is how this is going to go. It is not going to come from here, from me at this podium. It is going to come from the Department of Justice. And that is just the process that's happening currently.
I feel slightly bad about chasing Kirby from the room, so I'm going to ask you one thing not about the special counsel, which is...
What? No, now you can't. You can't now ask a question that you could have asked to Kirby.
Well, it wasn't for Kirby. It was for you.
Okay.
You got a question yesterday, actually, about Moderna raising the prices of the COVID vaccine, and said that you take the question. I was wondering if you had
And I did. I actually did. And Michael is not here. I was going to provide this information to him today. So I don't want anybody to be confused here. As you know, this is incredibly important. So you can go to 90,000 locations and get a Moderna or any COVID-19 shot for free. That is currently what folks can do. And they are our best protection against the XBB 1.5 right now. So please, if you haven't, please go get your shot. As you've heard from me, as you've heard from our COVID-19 team here, has been very clear on why this is important and why folks should get their shots. As it relates to the question, what Senator Sanders
so the situation is that
future shots.
Yeah,
and
I don't
the
know why
process
anybody would
moving
have
forward,
any interest in
moving
what the
toward
White
a
House
commercial market for
or
COVID
anybody
shots.
from the White
So
House
we
would
share
say
this
about
concern
COVID,
that those shots should be
but you can make your
That is
own
something that
you can make your own
we
assessment
share
on that.
concern
She's
with
talking about
Senator
COVID-19.
Sanders. The
We are
price
finding
right
out
there is
about the
hard to,
documents. I'm
to
thinking that
understand
Peter
or
Ducey is going to be up here in just a couple of minutes, and I want to make sure that we have a chance to hear him interact with Ms. Pierre, although she keeps moving to other people. Here we go.
But is the library a room adjacent to the garage?
Again, I don't have any of this information that I can provide. This is under review. I would refer you to Department of Justice. I'm just not going to go into specifics here. Not something that I can do from here.
And is the president's Corvette stored in the garage where the documents were found? Just for pure fact purposes.
Well, I will basically repeat what the president said. His Corvette is in the garage. I'm not going to go beyond what the president said.
And on the transparency issue, would you admit that earlier this week the White House shared incomplete information? I think that when we all heard Merrick Garland say that these documents at the residence were found on December 20th, that they were notified, that was pretty surprising to all of us based on the statements that you and the president and the counsel's office had made.
Well, as I just said, as you saw in our statement, the documents that were found last night, right? They completed the search with documents being found last night. And then this morning, we put out, you heard from the White House counsel, we put out the information on specifically what was found.
But just one document was found last night.
The search was continuing. It was ongoing. The process, as I've been saying, was ongoing. And the search is clearly complete. And therefore, we shared the information with all of you. Again, this is an ongoing process. I would refer you to the Department of Justice on any other specifics or particulars, even on timeline, or any other questions that you have.
Does Biden have any regret?
I'm going to go back. Go ahead.
to a couple questions, but is the president confident? You said that the search has been completed, but is the president confident that there are no additional documents with classified markings that remain in any other additional locations?
Look, I can just refer you to what his team said. The search is complete. He is confident in this process, and I will leave it there. And
all
they've
right.
been-
So the interesting thing about that is that they wanted lawyers to swear under oath with President Trump that there were no more classified documents. This is a little bit different, don't you think? Somebody in a press office saying, are there any other documents, as opposed to somebody from the DOJ saying, we want to put you under oath and make you swear that there are no other documents. Yeah. Okay. So 14 mentions of ongoing processes or ongoing investigation. So there you go. This is the Wells Report, back with hour number 3 coming up in just a minute. That's hour number 2 coming up in just a couple of moments. You stay where you are. Thanks very much for being a part of the broadcast. I'm going to put up the press office here one more time. Here we go.
Right to conduct an investigation on documents issued. They've, of course, started sending requests and saying they're going to look into this. Does that fall in the realm of sort of legitimate requests from House Republicans right
Look,
now?
I'm not going to speak to what the House Republicans decide to do. What I can speak to is that we are, the president's lawyers is complying, and they are working on this with the Department of Justice, as they have been. Again, this is something that the president takes very seriously when it comes to classified information, when it comes to classified documents. I'm just not going to go into what the Republicans on the House do or don't do.
And then, sorry, just separate from this, I was wondering if the White House had any thought on the Senate primary in California that's shaping up.
So as you know, the president sees Senator Feinstein as a longtime friend and also a colleague who he deeply respects and has collaborated on historic pieces of legislations over the years, and such as the last federal ban on assault weapons. So he respects the talented officials in California who are expressing interest in running for her seat. And we are prohibited from here, as you know, about talking about campaigns or elections, not something that I can do from the podium. So it would be inappropriate for me to weigh in with more specifics on any forthcoming Senate race, including the one in California. But clearly he sees her as a longtime friend and colleague. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, the president, when he was in Mexico City and asked about the classified documents that were found in the private office in Biden Center, said that he didn't know what the documents contained or what was in them. Is that the case also with the documents found at his Wilmington residence, that he doesn't know what those documents involve?
Yeah, I already answered the question, and he does not know. He's not aware of that the records were there.
I'll come over. Sorry, could you just clarify a little bit more about when you say that we inform the archives immediately, the Department of Justice immediately, since this happens in various points in time, what exactly was said at which juncture? Because it seems to be there's some conflict there and some.
Look, again, I will refer you to the Department of Justice. What I can tell you is that his lawyers reached out to the archivist, to the Department of Justice, which is what you're supposed to do, which is the right thing to do. I'm not going to get into specifics of time of who they reached out to first. I would refer you to the White House counsel to get more specifics. It is an ongoing process. And I would again refer to either the White House counsel or the Department of Justice for that specific question. Go ahead, Kristen.
Just a couple of outstanding clarifications before I get to questions. Sauber said there were documents in the garage and one document in an adjacent room. Merrick Garland said the DOJ was informed of one additional document this morning. Is that the same document, an additional document and the document found in the adjacent room?
So let me just say, during the review, and this is so that folks know, the lawyers discovered among personal and political papers a small number of additional Obama-Biden administration records with classified markings. All but one of these documents were found in storage space in the president's Wilmington residence garage. One document consisting of one page was discovered among stored materials in an adjacent room. No documents were found in the Rehoboth Beach house. Look, I just want to underscore that this is something, again, that that the president takes very seriously. It underscores how we executed the search with the DOJ to make sure that they continued cooperating fully with the review. And I think that is what we are trying to be very clear about, is that we have been the president's lawyers has been cooperating fully. I'm not going to get into the specifics as to you have the statement. I would refer you to the president's lawyer or anything else specifically on this, or the Department of Justice, because they are actually reviewing this currently.
To go back to something we were trying to pin down yesterday, can you tell us today, when did the president find out initially about that first batch of documents and then the second batch? Our reporting says he was told on November 2nd. Is that true?
So what I can say to you is that the president has been kept informed by his counsel throughout this process. I don't have a specific date, but I can tell you that the president was kept informed throughout. Don't have a timeline to share for you right now. Again, this is under ongoing review, and so want to be careful and prudent of what I share here at the podium.
When the search started and why they were searching in the first place, was the president concerned that there may be classified documents? Did someone tip them off? What sparked this?
Again, I'm just not going to go into details from here. I'm not going to go into specifics from here. This is undergoing. This review is continuing. It's ongoing. I would refer you to Department of Justice.
You have said repeatedly, the president has said he takes classified documents very seriously. If that's the case, why were these classified documents being stored in his garage?
Look, again, and not just me, he has said this. You have heard the president say this twice already, and he's said this before. Classified documents and information, he takes that very seriously. And you see,
garage is an appropriate place to store classified
I'm not going to go into what he thinks or how he feels about what is currently happening. What I can say for sure, when it comes to this specific issue about classified documents, about classified information, he takes that very seriously. He did not know. Right? He did not know the records were there. He was surprised that the records were there. So let's be very clear. That is something that the president shared with all of you on the world stage and also recently today. And so what occurred was, as I've said multiple times before, is when his team identified that these records existed, they handed them over to the archivists.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Somebody just asked a brilliant question. Who put the documents in the garage? Great question. Yeah. This is the Wells Report. We bring you the news. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point that out. We make commentary, not the news, just my opinion, just as valuable as yours, and so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. And from last hour, we have Karine Jean-Pierre dancing as fast as she can, trying to figure out all of this. I think Peter Doocy is next. Let's stick with this a little longer, as what we do is try to find out a little bit more about these classified documents.
Department of Justice, you all can will get your questions answered from them during this time, and so I would just refer you to the Department of Justice. And now, as you all know, there's a special counsel dealing with this.
Thank you, Karine. Another one on GarageGate. What is the White House trying to hide?
Nothing.
Someone gave the president a statement to read on Tuesday that was incomplete at best, misleading at worst.
So I have read out the president's statement. I have read it out yesterday, and what he said. He said that he respects, or he takes classified information and documents very seriously. That's what he said. He said that he did not know that the records were there. He does not know what's in them. He said that. You heard from him directly on this. And his team has been cooperating fully. And not only that, again, I'll say this, the Attorney General said this himself, that he heard from the team shortly after. So we have laid out what has occurred here. You've heard from the White House counsel. I just read the statement from his lawyer. And again, we take this very seriously, and the president does as well.
When will the White House release a log of visitors to the Wilmington House?
Peter, you've asked this question, or your colleagues have asked this question before. Let's not forget what we did here in this White House. We instituted something that the last administration got rid of, which is putting out the White House, making sure that there was a White House log, extensive White House log, so the American people got to see.
House where there is potentially unsecured classified material.
Again, I am telling you, we did something that the last administration got rid of, which is instituting the White House logs. Did you ask the last administration why they got rid of the White House logs? Okay, let's go. Let's go. Well, what Fox did? Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Delaware residents.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was calling the gentleman who wanted to ask a question that was not related to this. Go ahead.
Thanks, Karina. I appreciate it. I know I'm a little behind the news cycle here, but I want to go back to yesterday's op-ed from the president on big tech regulation. In Washington State, we've got the chairs of both Senate and House.
Okay, we'll keep our eyes on it, but Karine Jean-Pierre is having a tough day, and once again, as I said at the outset of this, she's got a really tough job. She's been left out in the cold. Peter Doocy asked a question. She did not answer. Who gave the president those notes he was clearly reading from, not just yesterday, but the day before? I'd like to buy an argument, please. Yes, for $250. Yeah, Gary says that he's never been able to take Karine Jean-Pierre seriously. Well, yeah, I get it. But once again, it's not our job to pick the press secretary. It's not our job to be a press secretary, not our job to wonder why she's got this gig. She is clearly out of her depth, and she's incredibly uncomfortable. And she does everything she possibly can to evade actually answering questions. And I think all that being said, I think she's doing the best she can. But that's as charitable as I can go, because at some point, you are the press secretary. At some point, you are responsible for the messaging of the president. And regardless of what you're talking about here, you have to come up with answers. You have to provide plausible answers to direct questions. And if there's anything lacking in her ability, that's it. And I have to say, and somebody's pointing out Kayleigh McEnany. And Kayleigh McEnany would go toe for toe for these guys until they quit, not until she just moved on to somebody talking about, what was it? Something having to do with industry. I mean, come on. I mean, this is something that you cannot do, right? I understand that there's an investigation going on. I understand all these things are working, et cetera, et cetera. Even Langston points out, and Langston, by the way, when I say even, I didn't mean it that way. Langston is a Democrat. Langston is a guy who stands up for his point of view. Okay. And he says she was horrible. And horrible may be a strong word. I mean, think about what she's got to go through. Think about what she's got to do. I'm old enough to remember Ron Nessen, trying to explain President Nixon and the real difficulty that he went through trying to explain the unexplainable. That is a skill that, you were talking about McEnany? No, she wasn't horrible. She was perfect. I thought you were talking about Karine Jean-Pierre. Let's see. Let's see what else is going on there. That's the chat room. Let me get on to some more of this news coverage here. This was from the Attorney General of the United States earlier today, as reported by USA Today. Attorney General Merrick Garland has appointed a special counsel, Robert Hur, H-U-R. Robert Hur, today to review the handling of classified documents found at the former office space used by President Joe Biden and at his Wilmington, Delaware home. He is a former U.S. attorney in Maryland who will return to the government from private practice. Hur also served as a principal associate deputy attorney general during the Trump administration, is expected to work in the coming days. This is interesting. So the attorney general is finding Trump people to do these investigations. Is this an attempt to rehabilitate the DOJ's image? I don't know. Why Garland said he's appointing a special counsel. The very extraordinary circumstances here require the appointment of a special counsel. True, because the DOJ has found itself in a political trap, and the only way for them to maintain some shred of credibility regarding the obvious politics played by the DOJ is to turn this stuff over to somebody who diffuses that. These Trump-era attorneys, the U.S. attorney from Chicago, for example, was a Trump appointee. And now Robert Hur is a guy that can provide them with that cover. And who knows? Depends on your point of view. If you believe that Merrick Garland is a swamp creature, if you believe that he is operating, shall we say, in an underhanded fashion, then you'll believe whatever you want to believe regarding his appointments of these people. But if he is actually trying to rehabilitate the DOJ's image, that's a pretty good start. Let's see. This appointment underscores for the public the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters, and to make decisions indisputably guided by only the facts and the law, which, by the way, not what he did with President Trump. All right. Two batches of documents found at his D.C. office and Delaware home. The second batch, Garland's move, comes hours after the White House disclosed that a second set of classified records had been recovered in a storage space at a garage in Biden's Wilmington home. The first batch, the White House announced that a small number of government records were discovered. Doesn't make any difference how big or small. By the president's personal lawyers, November 2nd, while boxes were being packed to vacate the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement in Washington. Biden used the office after leaving the office of vice president in 2017 until his presidential campaign in 2020. Let's see. Garland's action also followed his November appointment of a separate special counsel for Trump. We know all of that. And President Biden, through Karine Jean-Pierre, is certainly cooperating with the authorities. Okay. Now, a couple of things here. I would posit, in other words, I would say that we need to be very careful about all of this. Remember, this is a media firestorm. That's not us. Do we need to pay attention? Yes. Do the American people, do they have an adequate understanding of what's going on? Yes. Do they see the dual-tiered legal system, or what they consider to be a dual-tiered legal system? Yes, they do. Do they miss the hypocrisy? They most certainly don't. So once again, that's us. The politics, the media, they are absolutely just saturated with this, which is a tempest in a teapot. On the chat room earlier, someone pointed out that Geraldo Rivera has said, why don't we just leave this alone? Because none of these documents hurt anybody. I mean, you go back to President Trump. The documents that they found were in a locked storage room at Mar-a-Lago that was secured by the Secret Service. Nobody from the Secret Service was in President Biden's garage. Nobody from the Secret Service was in the Penn Biden Center. Okay, but Geraldo says that, look, nobody was hurt by these documents. That's true. The documents that we're talking about, and we have to keep this in perspective, are 6 years old or more. And so what we have here is we have the reality, which is, okay, presidents all the way back. I mean, all the way back. Presidents from Biden, Trump, Obama, Bush, everybody, all the way back to Carter. They have this material. We would have never heard about it had it not been for the fact that these people decided to set a snare for President Trump. And they've been caught up in their own trap. And so that's where we find ourselves. So once again, the tempest in the teapot and all these people that are in the mainstream media and the politicians, Republicans, etc., all just freaking out, hair on fire, running around. But the rest of us need to keep this in perspective because they can't. And the perspective is that we need to move to the realities. The realities are not that these men have papers. The reality is, was there any kind, and this is the argument that the Biden administration should use. The difference is was there obstruction of justice on the part of President Trump? Everything that I have reported, everything I've reported says no. But once again, you don't have to necessarily take logic and what's in the open source to be able to determine that. If you're, say, for example, a special prosecutor, you're going to do everything you possibly can to run down everything you possibly can, especially under these circumstances. So here we go. You decide whether or not any of that holds any kind of veracity. I'm looking at the chat room, and we'll be back in just a couple of moments. This is the Wells Report. Thanks for joining us. Oh, goodness. I'm sorry. I just saw something on the chat room that I'm going to share with you here in a couple of seconds. This is hysterically funny. Let's see. Brad says, I'm waiting for Corinne Jean-Pierre's head to go one direction and her finger go the opposite direction, then back and forth. She's got a terrible job. By the way, there's some information on this from CNN I want to share with you. The discovery of classified documents at President Joe Biden's private office in Washington, D.C., and his home in Wilmington, Delaware. Remember, this is CNN. Has cast a shadow over the White House in recent days. Some of the president's closest allies and senior officials have been left entirely in the dark on a political crisis enveloping the White House. This afternoon came another bombshell headline, the appointment of a special counsel to oversee the investigation into the Biden classified documents. People inside and close to the White House have been watching with concern and trepidation since Monday, privately grousing they felt they had no choice but to simply wait, like everybody else, to see what news and information would surface. In particular, Biden allies have been monitoring the Justice Department closely all week for signs the AG would appoint a special counsel, with the announcement this morning tapping Robert Hur to serve in that role. Aides acknowledge that in the coming weeks will present a new level of challenge to promote Biden's agenda in anticipation of an expected announcement that he is seeking re-election. The circle of advisors aware of the situation was kept extraordinarily tight in the 2 months between the discovery of the initial documents at Biden's Washington office and Monday night, when the matter emerged publicly for the first time, courtesy of CBS News. Those kept informed included a few top White House advisors and President Biden's personal attorneys, most of whom have long histories with the president, according to people familiar with the matter. They told him not to ask what was in the documents. That's bad. That is bad. What they're doing is they're trying to preserve plausible deniability, which is an ugly, cynical abuse of truth. Let's see who else. By the way, Corinne Jean-Pierre probably not informed in the matter. There was not a broad discussion inside the White House on how to handle the matter after the initial discovery of documents or the weeks afterwards. That left many officials uncertain about whether additional disclosures were forthcoming. I believe there will be more classified documents found. And once again, keep it in perspective. Same thing I said about President Trump. Keep it in perspective. You know, just be cool. Those kept informed, we already talked about that. That left many officials uncertain. We talked about this. All of this has prompted a bunker mentality to set in at the White House, with press aides answering questions with tightly scripted referrals to the White House counsel's office, who is not showing up in the press room. That's Richard Sauber and Corinne Jean-Pierre twisting in the wind in front of the White House press corps. It's hard to watch. It is hard to watch, but, you know, they've got nobody to blame but themselves on this. Once again, everybody knows. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows these guys have these documents. Everybody knows it. And, you know, they blew it out of proportion with Donald Trump, and now they have absolutely no choice but to follow those same footsteps, up to and including the appointment of a special counsel. So those people that were rooting for President Trump to be disqualified from the 2024 election may have engineered Joe Biden being precluded from running in the 2024 election. Well, I'll tell you, it's ugly as hell. Absolutely ugly as hell. By the way, that comment that I was talking about there, I gotta share that for you. By the way, in case you're wondering, a fun Corvette fact: the 1967 Stingray can go from 0 to 60 classified documents in 4.7 seconds. That was from Mike. Hysterical. This is the Wells Report. Stick around. Back with more in just a moment. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. If you find value in this show, please share it with your friends. Please tell them what we're doing here. It might be valuable to them. Also, by the way, if you'd like to, hit the share button. Share. Don't just share it with your friends. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a like, whatever it is that you have available to you on your platform. And if you'd like to support the show financially, you can. You can go to patreon.com/The Wells Report, and you can throw out $1 or $2 a month. $1 or $2 a month. It might be worth it. It might be worth it. So there you go. It is the Wells Report. By the way, speaking of conspiracy theories, this just came out. This is breaking news. Democrat Representative Hank Johnson said he isn't ruling out foul play in the discovery of classified documents found in President Joe Biden's possession, suggesting they could have been planted there. Alleged classified document showing up allegedly in the possession of Joseph Biden. I'm suspicious of the timing of it. He was speaking to Fox News' Hillary Vaughn after a second batch of documents was found in the president's garage in Wilmington, Delaware. I'm also aware of the fact that things can be planted on people. Things can be planted in places then discovered conveniently. That may be what occurred here. I'm not ruling that out, but I'm open to terms that the investigation needs to be investigated. I'm open in terms of the investigation needs to be investigated. A little syntax problem there. Despite Johnson speculating documents could have been planted, I'm sorry, I should have had a poker face there. Despite Johnson speculating the documents could have been planted, Biden admitted to Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy he knew they were in his garage, so the documents were locked in the garage, yes, as well as my Corvette. Just hours after Johnson told Fox about the suspicions surrounding the discovery, Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed Robert Hur as special counsel to investigate the classified documents. Yeah. Yep. By the way, Langston says that Trump never allowed free access. Yes, he did. It was in May. The FBI was standing in his office with his lawyers. The president walked in and told his lawyers and the FBI agents standing there, oh, yeah, that room's there. There's some documents in there. Go look. All the FBI did was ask for a bigger lock, which they then broke off the door in their search November 8th. Okay? So, yes, President Trump, with his own mouth, and I reported it on this broadcast, said, by all means, go right ahead. I wasn't the only one either, just in case you're wondering. So Brad says, you know, John, that's a good point. Did the Dems just purposefully harpoon President Biden's chances in 2024? Not purposefully. Not purposefully at all. This is, if anything, for the Democrat Party, a target of opportunity. The question is this: do they throw one of their own overboard in an effort to throw Donald Trump overboard? Do they sacrifice Joe Biden's possible second term in an effort to get Trump? How far are they willing to go to get Donald Trump out of the scenario, out of the equation? That's the question. Speaking of documents that Democrats don't want to talk about, journalist Matt Taibbi, who is one of the guys responsible for the tranches of things called the Twitter files released by Twitter owner Elon Musk. Journalist Matt Taibbi unveiled part 14 today, diving into the Russiagate lies and how he says a fake tale of Russian bots helped Democrats denounce the famous Devin Nunes report about flaws in the Trump-Russia investigation. Emails and memos show that high-powered Democrats peddled a narrative of Russian bots, despite being told directly by Twitter there was no connection to the Kremlin. The lengthy Twitter thread began with Taibbi noting, at a crucial moment in a years-long furor, Democrats denounced a report about flaws in the Trump-Russia investigation, saying that it was boosted by Russian bots and trolls. He then indicated Twitter officials were aghast, finding no evidence of Russian influence, and shared an email which Twitter executives appeared to inform, Representative Adam Schiff and Senator Dianne Feinstein, both of California, that the social media platform, quote, has not identified any significant activity connected with Russia when it comes to tweets posting original content to this hashtag release the memo hashtag. Okay. So once again, that is the very latest. I have the rest of it here. Twitter warned politicians and the media that Twitter warned politicians and media that not only lacked evidence, but had evidence that the accounts were not Russian and were roundly ignored. In other words, don't let the facts get in the way of our political propaganda. On January 18th, 2018, this is number 5, Republican Devin Nunes submitted a classified document to the House Intel Committee detailing abuses by the FBI in obtaining FISA surveillance authority against Trump-connected figures, including the crucial role played by the infamous Steele dossier. The Nunes assertions could virtually be all verified in a report by the Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz in December of 2019. Nonetheless, national media in January and in early February of 2018 denounced the Nunes report in oddly identical language, calling it a joke. Not so funny. If it was a joke, not so funny now. It's amazing how these conspiracy theories and jokes turn out to be news. On January 23rd, 2018, Senator Dianne Feinstein and Congressman Adam Schiff published an open letter saying the hashtag, quote, gained the immediate attention and assistance of social media accounts linked to Russian influence operations, unquote. Feinstein, this is number 9B. Feinstein Schiff said the Nunes memo distorts classified information, but note they didn't call it incorrect. Number 10. Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal followed suit, publishing a letter saying we find it reprehensible that Russian agents have so eagerly manipulated innocent Americans. Number 11. Feinstein, Schiff, Blumenthal, and media members all pointed to the same source, the Hamilton 68 dashboard created by former counterintelligence official Clint Watts under the auspices of the Alliance for Securing Democracy. Wow. FBI counterintelligence officials, Clint Watts, created a dashboard under the auspices of the Alliance for Securing Democracy. What's significant there is that Clint Watts was clearly playing politics with a political action committee. Number 12, the dashboard, which featured a crude picture of Vladimir Putin deviously blowing evil red Twitter birds into the atmosphere, was vague in how it reached its conclusions. I'll bet. Number 13, inside Twitter, executives panned Watts, Hamilton 68, and the Alliance for Securing Democracy. The two key complaints, Hamilton 68 seemed to be everyone's only source. No one was checking with Twitter. Once again, the American media, in their political play date, will only research what they want to report and then not move on to see if that report is correct or not. It's terrible journalism. It would get them an F in a high school journalism class. I encourage you, this is number 14, I encourage you to be skeptical of Hamilton 68's take on this, which as far as I can tell is the only source for these stories, said Global Policy Communications Chief and future White House and NSC spokesman Emily Horn. Number 15. The swirl is based on Hamilton and Trust and Safety Chief Yoel Roth. Here he comes again. Number 16. If ASD isn't going to fact check with us, we should feel to correct We should feel free to correct the record on their work, said Twitter policy VP Carlos Monge. Number 17. Roth couldn't find any Russian connection to the hashtag release the memo at all. Quote, I just reviewed the accounts that posted the first 50 tweets with hashtag release the memo, and none of them show any affiliations to Russia. Number 18. We investigated, found that engagement as overwhelmingly organic and driven by VITs, very important tweeters, including WikiLeaks and Congressman Stephen King. Number 19, a staffer for DiFi, that's Dianne Feinstein, agreed it would be helpful to know how Hamilton 68 goes by the process by which they decide an account is Russian, but only after Feinstein published her letter about Russian influence. So after the letter's written, then she goes, wait a minute. Number 20, when Twitter spoke about a Blumenthal staffer, they tried to wave him off because we don't believe these are bots. Oh, man. Number 21, added another, it might be worth nudging Blumenthal's staffer that it could be his boss's in his boss's best interests, not to go out there because it could come back to make him look silly. You know, like today, right now. Number 22, Twitter exec even tried to negotiate, implying an undisclosed future PR concession if Blumenthal would lay off on this. Quote, it seems as like there are other wins we could offer him, unquote. That's conspiracy. That is conspiracy. Number 23, Blumenthal published the letter anyway. Number 24, execs finally grew frustrated over what they saw as a circular process presented with claims of Russian activity, even when denied, led to more claims of Russian activity. Number 25, they expressed this explicitly to Blumenthal's camp, saying Twitter spent a lot of resources on this request, and the reward from Blumenthal shouldn't be round after round of requests. We can't do a user notice each time this happens. Number 26, eventually Twitter staff realized Blumenthal isn't looking for real and nuanced solutions, but, quote, just wants to get credit for pushing us further, unquote. There's some real thinking going on among these Twitter executives. Whether they're corrupt or not is up for you to decide, but they're trying. Ultimately, senior executives talked about feeding congressional trolls and compared their situation to the children's book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, You Get a Mouse. In the story, if you give a mouse a cookie, he'll want a glass of milk, which will lead to a wave of another exhausting request, at the end of which he'll want a glass of milk and another cookie. The metaphor for the endless Russia request was so perfect, one exec wrote, I'm legitimately embarrassed I didn't think of that first. Number 30, despite universal internal conviction there were no Russians in the story, Twitter went on to follow a slavish pattern of not challenging Russian claims on the record. So all this was going on inside the hallowed halls of Twitter management. Outside counsel from DC Connected, this is number 31, outside counsel from DC Connected firms like Debevoise and Plimpton advised Twitter to use language like, quote, with respect to particular hashtags, we take seriously any activity that may represent an abuse of our platform. Okay, getting awfully close to that conspiracy word. Okay, so all of that is out there. It's the latest Twitter tranche. And that's Matt Taibbi. So, what do we have? We have an awful lot of people ignoring an awful lot of Twitter people saying this isn't true for the sake of the political narrative. In other words, all those people mentioned, Schiff, Feinstein, Blumenthal, they were lying. And because Twitter pointed out, hey, that's not true, they didn't care and lied anyway. All the while accusing Donald Trump of lying every time he opened his mouth. No one expected that Elon Musk was going to buy Twitter. No one expected that Elon Musk was going to release all of this information. But you see, This is one of the great things about America. Whether you believe it or not, America is a self-correcting mechanism. At least it is now. Actually, all governments are. It depends on what you do with the people that spill the information. In a free society, either these people are reviled or celebrated depending on the political stance of the persons that are doing the communicating. In a totalitarian society, people that catch the government lying are shot. I certainly hope we don't get to that point in this nation, but we're closing in on it, don't you think? Once again, that's up for debate. 817-379-2172. This is the Wells Report. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We report the news. We analyze the news for fact and bias. Yes, I make commentary. That's not the news. It's debatable. And so we debate on the chat room. Or you can call me, 817-379-2172. You know, a lot of people are incredibly anguished over what's been happening with the DOJ and the FBI. And it's something that's hard to watch, especially for those people who serve the FBI, retired under these clouds the FBI generated for itself by playing politics. There's a story here today in Fox News by Nicole Parker. She was working for Merrill Lynch. On top of the World Financial Center in New York City, she saw the 9/11 attacks close up and personal. She was rescued by NYPD officers, and she decided to join the FBI. After 5 months of arduous training in the academy in Quantico, I was sworn in as a special agent assigned to the Miami division. I consider it a sacred responsibility, was honored to be entrusted to protect, and serve the American people. My entire career was spent in the field where I believed I could make the strongest impact in rescuing victims and putting criminals behind bars. It was my privilege to work alongside the finest and brightest in the FBI, local law enforcement, and our federal partners, participating in investigations of myriad criminal cases. The Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in Parkland, Florida in 2017, the Fort Lauderdale Airport shooting, the Cesar Sayoc pipe bomb case, multi-million-dollar Ponzi schemes, crimes on the high seas, bank robberies, murders for hire, sexual assaults, extortion, and more. Yes, it was physically taxing, emotionally jarring. I believed I was making a difference. Every day I woke up embraced being an FBI special agent until things changed. Over the course of my 12-plus years of service, the FBI's trajectory transformed. On paper, the Bureau's mission remained the same, but its priorities and governing principles shifted dramatically. The FBI became politically weaponized, starting from the top in Washington, D.C., and trickling down to the field offices. Lately, there's been one politicization issue after another at the FBI. Consider an example. On June 4th, 2020, images and videos surfaced online of special agents in their FBI-marked ballistic vests kneeling to protesters in Washington, D.C., while on official duty protecting our nation's institutions. Although agents have their First Amendment rights, they are not at liberty to publicly express any potential political support while on duty wearing official FBI gear. Some claim they knelt for de-escalation purposes, but images revealed some agents clapping and smiling. They hardly seemed to be in danger. In fact, the agents posted at another building nearby remained standing during the entire protest. On top of that, there was no reprimand for any of the agents who knelt that day. In fact, many ended up getting highly sought-after promotions and were offered $100 gift cards by the FBI Agents Association. For many agents nationwide, it was upsetting to see the lack of judgment by the kneelers, much less their apparent political statements while on the job. And the fact that they were treated like heroes by some FBI managers was appalling. Americans see this. It destroys the Bureau's credibility, causing Americans to lose faith in the agency and therefore the hardworking and highly ethical agents who still do the heavy lifting and pursue noble causes. The majority of agents uphold their oath to support and defend the Constitution with fairness and integrity. There's also been a shift in recruiting practices, a lowering of eligibility requirements, which is negatively impacting the agency's performance. All this adds up to a loss of trust in the FBI by many Americans and low morale among FBI employees. As a result, teams are less cohesive, less trusting of each other, and less safe. For many, becoming a special agent was a calling in their life. Now it's merely an extremely high-risk job with minimal contentment. Wary of consequences that come with voicing their displeasure, these agents kept their heads low, they worked hard, they stayed off the radar, and counted down the days until they collected their well-deserved pension. For me, distancing myself from egregious mistakes, immoral behavior, and politically charged actions taken by a small but destructive few FBI employees became exhausting. Although I was always treated with the highest level of respect in the Miami division, I no longer felt I was the type of agent the FBI valued. I began to lose passion for the career I loved. Peace came as I reflected on the victims I assisted, the criminals I took off the street. I remember the positive performance reviews, the awards, and accolades. I was pleased with my efforts, but profoundly saddened that conditions had deteriorated to the point that leaving was my best option. I held out as long as I could, hoping things would improve. But finally I knew it. It was time to go. So 2 months ago, of my own volition, I made the difficult decision and quietly walked away from the FBI with an exemplary and spotless record. I'm proud to have served with honor as a special agent. While I sincerely pray for the FBI's future success, the FBI's troubles of late are bigger than anything I could change. A poignant story of an FBI agent who couldn't stand it any longer. Yeah. I've had similar conversations with former FBI agents. They're equally poignant. What happened to my FBI? One said. This is the Wells Report, back with hour number 3 in just a moment. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point it out. I make commentary. That's not news. It's just my opinion, just as valuable as yours. And so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. Every day, Monday through Friday, from 2 until 5 p.m. Central Time. We try to de-propagandize news. And that is a tough job. Not walking around saying, oh, poor, pitiful me. This is the job I chose on 9/11/2001. And the reason I chose to do it is because we had been lied to enough. And so what I did was I jumped into the fray. That's what we do here, because you need to know. We're pretty good at this. We make mistakes from time to time. I think I called a Corvette a Z09 yesterday. It was actually a Z06 when I was talking about President Biden at the Detroit Auto Show, looking at all these wonderful electric vehicles and then finding the Z06 and saying, I like this car on camera. That was the facepalm that I'm sure that his press people did when they saw him do that. Nobody stopped him, but the hypocrisy is going to get us if we don't stop it. So we try to bring a balanced perspective. This is not a partisan broadcast unless you think the Constitution is partisan. I fired the Republican Party because I got tired of watching them do nothing. I got tired of the ulterior motives. I mean, you know what Democrats are going to do. Do you have any idea what the Republican Party stands for? I don't. Used to. They used to be small government, low taxes. Now it looks like it's political opportunism and political expedience. I say that we have two political parties, one that operates in spite of the American people. The other simply ignores them. We're trying to break this down. And our votes did it by giving the House of Representatives to the Republican Party. While I'm less sanguine about their future prospects, once again, Republicans make brave noises about what they're going to do. When they have a chance to do it, they often fail. Do I expect that to happen again? Well, all these things they're voting on have no chance of moving forward, but at least, like I said, they're trying, I think. So we'll see. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy pointed out 3 members of the Democrat caucus that he was not going to allow to serve on committees. One of them was Eric Swalwell. Adam Schiff was the other. Ilhan Omar the third. Today, he defended his decision to keep California Democrats Eric Swalwell and Adam Schiff off the House Intelligence Committee, arguing that Schiff openly lied about the Russia election interference and a disturbing briefing that he received from the FBI on Swalwell. Quote, if you got the briefing I got from the FBI, you wouldn't have Swalwell on any committee, McCarthy said. This at a press conference after one reporter questioned McCarthy's commitment to allowing Democrats to pick their own committee membership. Quote, and you're going to tell me other Democrats couldn't fill that slot? He cannot get a security clearance in the private sector, so you would give him a government clearance? McCarthy noted in the last Congress, which was controlled by Democrats, leadership kept Swalwell in the committee after he was red flagged by the FBI. When you consider the political leanings of the FBI, red flagging another Democrat is amazing. Quote, you're going to tell me that there are 200 other Democrats that could not fill that slot, but they kept him on it? The only way they even knew it came forward is when they put to nominate him to the Intel Committee. Then the FBI came and told the leadership that he's got a problem, and they kept him on. That jeopardized all of us, said McCarthy. McCarthy said that Schiff was another exception to his general policy of allowing Democrats to decide which members of their party sit on certain committees. Adam Schiff, quote, openly lied to the American public. He told you he had proof of Russian collusion. He told you he didn't know the whistleblower. That McCarthy said of controversies surrounding Schiff during the impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. Quote, he put America for 4 years through an impeachment that he knew was a lie. At the same time, we had Ukraine. The same time we had the Afghanistan collapse. Was that the role of the Intel Committee? The answer, no. So what I'm doing with the Intel Committee, bringing it back to the jurisdiction it's supposed to do, forward-looking to keep this country safe, keep politics out of it. So yes, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do, said Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House of Representatives. So when we saw Adam Schiff blatantly lying to us, we pointed this out. He said, I approve. You do? Because I couldn't see anything of it. Granted, most of the Mueller investigation was kept secret, unless they had especially juicy parts that they wanted to leak that damaged President Trump. But sooner or later, the piper is paid. Adam Schiff is paying it. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know how Eric Swalwell kept that Intel seat, except, of course, that the Democrats have this annoying proclivity to try to make things better by making them bigger. No, Eric Swalwell's a fine American. That sleeping with the Chinese spy thing, yeah. So, McCarthy is doing what he thinks he should do. Ilhan Omar is a rabid, anti-Jewish bigot. I have problems with rabid anti-Jewish bigots. I have problems with not rabid anti-Jewish bigots. I nail them to the wall every chance I get. There's a survey out there that I almost thought I was going to relate to you. You can find it. There's a survey out there that says that anti-Semitism, which is the wrong term, anti-Jewish bigotry should replace anti-Semitism at every possible turn because, well, that's a more accurate term. But the survey said that anti-Semitism was growing in the United States. And then went through every anti-Jewish trope that anybody ever thought of. And they talked about how the Jewish people were clannish. Well, yeah, they have to be. They have to stick together. Just like the Democrats are clannish. And moderate Republicans are clannish. And the FBI is clannish. So I decided I wasn't going to put that out because it's ridiculous. But Ilhan Omar is open about her anti-Jewish bigotry. She's also completely open about the fact that some people did some things when it came to 9/11. I'm sorry, that's a disqualifier. With, I dare say, a majority of Americans, which does not reflect the majority of people in her congressional district, that sent her back to Washington again, where she was sitting on the Foreign Relations Committee. Really? So Kevin McCarthy, yeah, he's doing what he's supposed to do. And thankfully, he is. You see, you can't have politics before reality. You can't say that politics is more important than fact. Politics is more important than logic. Politics is more important than the welfare of the United States of America. You can't do that. Those people that do that need to be out of government service. because what they end up doing is more harm than good. This after swearing an oath that they will protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, as they go about their denigrating work to damage the greatest nation in the history of the human endeavor. So, there you go. Gary says cliques are normal, tribes, camps, human nature. True. But when 6 million of your family members were slaughtered because of insane people in the Third Reich, you have a tendency to stand a little tighter. As well they should. Who can they trust? Well, they can, by God, trust me. And they should be able to, by God, trust you. Elsewhere, Oversight Chairman Comer is reigniting GOP's top priority probe into Hunter Biden. And he sets a hearing with Twitter execs. This came out yesterday. I didn't have time to talk to you about it. House Oversight Committee James Comer is reigniting the GOP's top priority investigation into Hunter Biden and big tech suppression of damaging information on the Biden family business ahead of the 2020 election. By the way, you can't help but remember that this tranche of classified documents was found 6 days before the midterm elections of 2022. Comer is a Republican from Kentucky. He is following up with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and demanding details about questionable questionable business dealings involving Hunter Biden, his associates, and other Biden family members that have been flagged and reported by U.S. banks. Now, this is coming from an administration that wants to know every financial transaction you make over $600. Do you suppose the Biden family made deals that were over $600? Lawmakers also sent letters yesterday to former top Twitter executives Yoel Roth, Vijaya Gadde, and James Baker, inviting them to participate in a committee hearing the week of February 6th to investigate, quote, their role in suppressing Americans' access to information about the Biden family on Twitter shortly before the 2020 election. The greatest lawyer I know is Mark Rissman. Mark Rissman helped me with an unfortunate circumstance with a radio station. I explained everything to him. He asked me a few questions, and then he looked at me and he said, "You got him." James Comer, he's got him. Those Twitter executives are going to say, "I respectfully invoke my right to my Fifth Amendment protections against self-incrimination." Over and over and over. And James Baker, former FBI special counsel, he's got big, big problems. Probably will lead to his loss of the legal license. It's just a supposition on my part. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in a moment. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number is 217-379-2172. We're on the air live from 2 until 5 p.m. every single day, Monday through Friday, except yesterday. We were on until about 5:20. I was very, very sure that my computer that you hear playing music right now had malfunctioned. And the reason that I was sure it malfunctioned was because it wasn't playing any music. So I reloaded the little log that plays the music. I started playing it by hand. And I'm just cavitating away doing what I do on the Wells Report. Reporting the news, honestly, fairly. Analyzing it for fact and bias. And making sure that I allow debate. And I looked down at the chat room and Chris Grimes said, will someone please tell him that it's after 5 o'clock and the show's over? Yeah. So, whoops. It happens. It happens. All right. So I'm going to the chat room. Gary says tribes will stand together against a Nazi Germany type anything. Yeah, they will. By the way, opening arguments in the Proud Boys trial started today. As bad as you think it is, think again. The elected don't know us as well as we know them. That is correct. If Ukraine has shown us anything, an oppressive, tyrannical force is not capable of taking on 44 million people. When you consider that 74 million voted for Donald Trump, you should look at that power and handle it wisely. If you don't know how to handle that power wisely, give me a call, 817-379-2172. I'll tell you exactly what to do. Get an American flag and a copy of the Constitution. Go to wherever you're going to. Stand in a big circle with 100,000, 200,000, 3 million, 4 million of your closest friends and sing the national anthem. Make sure people take pictures. Do not cross barriers. Do not hassle police officers. If you hear of anybody saying, we ought to go kick that cop's butt, turn them over to the nearest police officer. You're not going to win. You're not going to win when you become a political toy. Because politics got us into this. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights will get us out of it. But all of us in our tribes, we need to start thinking about that. That's what we need to start thinking about. Let's see. Gary says the original movie Avatar demonstrated how tribes pull together. It was liberal themed, but it was fascinating. Blazing Saddles also demonstrated everyone coming together to fight a common foe. Yeah. By the way, that was about government corruption, wasn't it? Sure was. Game of Thrones, not real world. The quote I made came from The Expanse. Let's see. Hold on, everyone stand together against the enemy. We all want to be okay. It was a great. By the way, Mike Renouille is being very, very charitable regarding the overrun of the Wells Report yesterday. He said it was a great extra 30 minutes. I was into it, man. I forgot. Let's see. Mike says, I mean, the clock is right here. It's right there. That's not even a good excuse. I got a clock right there. I got a clock right there. I got a clock right there. I got a clock right here. I got a clock everywhere. Just totally ignored him. I was into the Wells Report that much. By the way, will we get the Wells Report extra innings today? No. I got to go play a band gig. By the way, if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, make sure you go to the Dream Tacos tonight. My band, the Traditional Blues Band, is playing tonight. Do not miss that. This is the Wells Report. We'll be back with more coming up in just a moment. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. Mike Renweed, does JD ever sing with his band? The answer is no. I can't sing while I play drums. I can mouth the words, but I can't sing while I play the drums. Now, I suppose if my band would learn, say, I don't know, let's see, Day After Day by Badfinger, and so on, Brandy, let's see, Born to Be Wild, some of that stuff I was playing drums to when I was in a hair band. I know you're looking at my head and you're going, he was in a hair band? Yeah, I was in a hair band. There are pictures. There's art. By the way, the concert tonight with the traditional blues band at the Dream Tacos in Bedford will begin at 7:30. We're going to play for 2 hours. So make sure you join us. Great tacos, by the way. I mean, great tacos. I can recommend their brisket taco. Yum. Okay? They got every taco you want, and they're all good. They're just mwah. You don't have to ask me. You can ask Susan. Susan is actually going through the menu. She loves it. She's a foodie. There was good economic news today. Inflation eased substantially for a third month in December as tumbling gasoline prices and a moderate tumbling. Really? This is written by USA Today. That's a bit optimistic. Anyway, tumbling gas prices and a moderating rise in grocery bills offset another surge in rent. Consumer prices increased 6.5% from month to month a year earlier. That's down from 7.1% in November and a 40-year high of 9.1% in June, according to the Labor Department's Consumer Price Index, a measurement of what people pay for goods and services, which they released today. The last month marks the slowest annual gain since October of 2021 and matches economists' estimates. On a monthly basis, consumer prices fell 0.1%, the first decline since May of 2020. Core prices, which exclude volatile food and energy items and better reflect longer-term trends, increased 0.3% from November, following a 0.2% bump the previous month. So, core prices, yeah, that's pre-processed stuff that become the products that we buy. Those prices are going up. So expect this to be a little lower. Also, one other thing, by the way, I hate it when people like me take good economic news and say, but, and then try to spin some sort of political thing to it. But I got to point out two things. Okay. The 6.5% increase was from, I believe, hold on. This is what? What is this price? December. From December of 2022 to 2021 and December of 2022. We don't know where the prices were in December. So prices could have deflated a little bit in September. That was a COVID year. And thus, or increased, they could have increased a little bit in December, and thus year to year, the percentage is down a little bit. These numbers aren't real, but still, it's a trend. And while we shouldn't be here in the first place, as brilliantly stated by Mike Renwee, it's still an increase. That is completely true. So, even if it's zero, is the price going down? The answer is no, it's not. And so, once again, this is something, okay? And I'm not trying to poo-poo the news. Inflation is going the right direction. Let's hope it stays that way. But please understand, there's a price. The reason inflation is going down is not because of market pressure. The reason inflation is going down is because the Fed is forcing everybody who borrows money for capital improvements of their business and so on and so forth, much more expensive. So they're not doing it as much. And so that's cooling the economy. The problem with it is, how much will they cool the economy? Will they cool the economy right into a recession? Most people say yes. We will have to see. But there you go. Hi, Beth Ann. By the way, Beth Ann just showed up. Beth Ann, I did something I normally don't do. I got on the air earlier yesterday and did like a 60-second promo for what was coming on, because I wanted everybody to know that Fox News' Greg Jarrett had agreed to join us on this broadcast. And so I wanted you to see that, because he is a star. What I say is nobody is better educated and better experienced than Greg Jarrett to analyze reality and report it. He's just the best there is at it. And so when he showed up on my show, I couldn't believe it. You know, so I did this promo, and Beth Ann was right there. As soon as I went on the air, Beth Ann was there as well. Beth Ann, that was sweet. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's see. Oh, by the way, they really do have great chow at Dream Tacos. Gary Absher should know. He is a fellow drummer, and he came to watch me drum and was very dishonest about his approval of what I did. I'm getting a little better, so I'm improving-ish, he said, probably cursing myself for tonight's performance. The Dream Tacos, 7:30 p.m. Don't miss it if you're in the DFW area. The Democrats are seeking reparations again and a national apology for slavery. And they say they are moving closer. Fox News reports it this way. Dozens of House Democrats this week renewed their push for reparations and a national apology for slavery by reintroducing legislation that would set up a commission to consider these steps as a way to address the, quote, cruelty, brutality, and inhumanity of slavery, unquote, in the U.S. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, the Democrat from Texas, and 52 House Democrats proposed the legislation this week in an effort to keep the issue alive. Her legislation, which was considered by the House Judiciary Committee in the last Congress when Democrats were in charge, is unlikely to be taken up in the 118th Congress led by Republicans. Still, Jackson Lee said she is hopeful a commission can be formed not just to recommend monetary compensation, but to help America understand how slavery still affects the country today. Though some have tried to deflect the importance of these conversations by focusing on individual monetary compensation, the real issue is whether and how this nation can come to grips with the legacy of slavery that still infects current society. Through legislation, resolutions, news, and litigation, we are moving closer to making more strides in the movement toward reparations. So, should reparations be paid to America's black population because of slavery 170 years ago? I have some questions. And these are not to be inferred to as being racial in any way, shape, or form. Because I'm not making a case for any kind of racial statement, be it advantageous to white or black or blue or green or yellow or anybody else. But I'm going to ask you a question. How many people here watching this broadcast, listening to it if it's on a radio station near you, how many people have owned slaves? I'm pretty sure the answer is 0. How many people in the United States have experienced firsthand the ravages and cruelties of slavery? No one. No one. So there should be reparations paid and an apology given by people who had nothing to do with slavery. In fact, it's illegal and has been illegal for 160 years. 70 years. How many people here we should people who are not guilty of slavery should pay money to people who have never experienced it and don't experience it because of this injury. Now, I draw a big distinction against slavery and racism. Those are two different things. Do people in America suffer racism? Yes. Yes, they do. Is it primitive and stupid? Yes, it is. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. To either gain advantage from or be diminished by the color of your epidermis is idiotic. Just plain idiotic. So, should there be reparations for racism? Again, no. That's what affirmative action is. Yes, the courts may believe that affirmative action has outlived its usefulness. And they may rule that way at some point. However, what we have here is we have a nation that is built on equal opportunity, not saddled with the millstone of equal outcome. Now, once again, the people of the United States have, through their representatives and the laws and litigation and all the things that Representative Jackson Lee is talking about, we've already paid reparations for bigotry. We have. But the situation remains. Reparations, not appropriate. Simply not appropriate. Are there any people living in the United States right now that deserve reparations? Anyone? The answer is yes. The answer is most assuredly yes. Because what they suffered from this country, they suffer to this very day. Is it slavery? No, it's not slavery. It's not slavery. It's illegal activity. And they live with it every day. They're living with it right now as we have this conversation. I would like to think that a member of this particular group of people living in the United States would be listening to this broadcast as we speak. But they deserve reparations as quickly as we can get them into their hands. Who are they? America's Native American population. That's who. Were they slaves? No. No. No, they weren't. But wait a minute, John. What do you mean they live with the problems to this day? Well, if we're going to go back in America's past and we're going to start issuing apologies and reparations, the apologies and reparations that we, the people, still carry to the Native American public in the United States are because the government of the United States signed countless treaties with those people only to come back and set them aside for the sake of westward expansion, for the sake of gold, for the sake of whatever it happened to be at the time. These great peoples who fought the United States Army to a standstill. They live on reservations. Those reservations aren't the size they should be. They aren't anywhere close to what the government promised them. And they live with that every day. If I have anything to do with it, the government of the United States will be held account to those broken treaties and to those people. If I have anything to do with it. By the way, slavery is going on in the world right now, not in America. Not in America. It's illegal, and people who would do it are villains of the highest order. This is the Wells Report. Stick around. We'll be back with more coming up in just a moment. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Gary Abshire points out that human trafficking is lipstick on slavery. That's not actually what we're talking about. You have to understand that human trafficking, which is the sex trade, is an illegal enterprise. It is perpetrated on people by monsters who are members of organized crime. Slavery, on the other hand, was perpetrated on a defenseless people by governments, the Dutch, the French. All of these people who were here in the North American continent before there was a United States of America are responsible for the slave trade in America. It was 160 years. 160 years that the Emancipation Proclamation was issued by President Lincoln. It's 160 years. Was slavery a crime? Yeah, it's a crime against humanity. But the circumstance is that you just don't, the situation does not apply. You want to go back, you want to find people wronged by the federal government as a government entity, then you got to look at Native Americans. I don't know which treaty we should unbreak. I don't know how we make it up to those people. You know, nice. We gave them duty-free alcohol. Brilliant. Oh, you can buy cheap cigarettes. Oh, that's great. Again, brilliant. And yeah, we gave them casinos. Yeah. Yeah. If you've ever owned land, to have somebody take that away from you, that ownership of land is a hell of a lot more satisfying than a mid-level management gig at a casino. While we're on this topic, there's often a backlash to what seems like a good idea. Jared Bell wrote an unfortunate op-ed regarding NFL football. The cause célèbre in NFL football are black head coaches. And black head coaches, there are several, very successful. But the idea that there should be more black head coaches has been advanced through the years to the point where it's beginning to fold back on itself. Unfortunately, Jarrett Bell says it this way. Sean Payton, Super Bowl winning coach, is arguably the hottest name on the market as this new hiring cycle for NFL head coaches kicks off. Hotter than Jim Harbaugh, hotter than Leslie Frazier, Steve Wilkes, DeMeco Ryans. Three names who should be on any team's shortlist based on results. Who wouldn't want to fill a head coaching vacancy with Payton? The former New Orleans Saints coach with a Super Bowl win on his resume brings creativity, passion, resourcefulness. A huge payday is likely coming in addition to hefty compensation to the Saints because Payton knows how to touch the quarterback as one of the game's foremost offensive strategists. And we know how NFL owners, fair or not, have become so enamored with offensive gurus like Payton. Somebody is calling. Hi, can I help you? Hello? Goodbye. Anyway. And what they're saying is that they're saying that there are a lot of black head coaching candidates out there that are going to be set aside because Sean Payton is available. And so anybody who hires Sean Payton will likely, because it's an NFL rule, interview black head coaches. And then what will end up happening is that Sean Payton's going to get hired by somebody. And Mr. Bell's assertion that somebody went through a sham interview with an NFL team that should have hired somebody else besides Sean Payton is what happens, is what happened. It's indefensible, really. You really can't defend the fact that Sean Payton might be the best candidate. And if there's anything that is more true about professional sports, it's a meritocracy. It's a meritocracy. So when this comes right down to it, in the part where I say the NFL policy is folding in on itself, what I will point to is the fact that if indeed Jared Bell is successful in his evangelizing for more black head coaches to the expense of Sean Payton. Sean Payton will have lost the job that he was interviewed for because of the color of his skin. So racism is fine as long as the right people are discriminated against. As long as the right color skin is discriminated against, it's okay. Food for thought. This is the Wells Report. I'm going to go put on a really cool shirt. And then I'm going to go play drums tonight at the Dream Tacos. Hope to see you there. God bless you. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you tomorrow. Well, all righty. There you go. I love you all. Thanks very much for being a part of the broadcast. And I will see you again tomorrow. Like I said, I got to go put on rock star clothes, and I got to go get my drums in the Tahoe. So I'll see you.